So here we are with your slot machine. I'm gonna go max bet. Oh, that's right, you got a skill slot. Oh. Okay. Guys, this is the second time I bumped into this. Huh.
Guys, day 2 is over. Just came home, and on my way home, I was thinking about the Expo the whole time. First of all, let's break down the day's events. 1, lines. It was insane. I got there a little over an hour early, and I was like, okay, I'll probably be the 150th person in line. No, I was more like the 250th, and then it grew. It grew. And I was looking at the time. I was like, whoa. And they put us in a room this time. We're like sheep or cows getting herded. Cows get herded? I think they do. Like sheep getting herded in this one room. Then it was time to go in. At first, it was not so busy. I got to look around. I found a couple things. And I had some things I was looking for. I was looking for maybe Casino Kid 2, maybe Swordmaster, maybe Swamp Thing, maybe Wayne's World. I'd love to get Utopia, Streets of Rage series. Definitely that's what I was looking for. And I was on the hunt for some of these. It was really busy, and as about an hour into it, it got really crowded. That first half an hour with a lot of breathing room ended relatively fast. And the prices were decent. Some places, oh my gosh, they have deals. Other places, not so much, unfortunately. You saw the NES definitely drop in price on most games. But there were certain games I was surprised I didn't find. I couldn't find really the Advanced Dungeons & Dragons games. I couldn't find Firehouse Rescue. Of course, people had Little Samson, actually quite a bit of them. That seems to be a trend now at Portland. More and more Little Samsons. And they all varied in price. I think one was $1,400, one was $1,150, one I think was $1,200. It was Bonk's Avenger, Panic Restaurant, Power Blade 2. The Power Blade 2 from day 1 was still not sold by the time I left at $425. Someone else had a Power Blade 2, I think, for $500. So that game really didn't move. A lot of these higher end NES games did not move. Does that mean they're not going to move tomorrow? I don't know. Of course, those expensive Game Boy games here. There was actually a lot more Game Boy games in the boxes, and some of the games fetched a high price, like the Bonk's Adventure. Now, it was the variant label, which is usually the USA 1 versions. Those will have a different label or different publisher. I think the Bonk's was Electro Brain. So overall, this was an interesting expo. Prices were a little bit of everywhere. A lot of NES stuff moved. A lot of other games moved. Like there was tables that were wiped. I overheard a couple vendors going, yeah, I've only been open for 2 hours and most of my stuff's gone, which was true. There was some sellers there selling their little knickknacks. Some of them were really cool. Had these little Groot planters. Oh, Planter Groot. Those were really adorable. Of course, you had figures, you had toys, you had board games, many consoles. All awesome to see. Oh, and I was so invested in the hunt and looking for this stuff. I missed the AVGN pen. I heard a couple guys behind me. It was like, hey, AVGN's going to be in about 10 minutes. Let's head out. And I was like, okay, 10 minutes. I'll head out to it. I want to see this. But I was so invested in looking for a game. And I went to a couple different booths. And that's one thing. I got lost. And I tried to find double jump games, a couple other vendors. It was kind of weird. I actually bypassed some of the bigger tables at first and kind of went around the back. Something I didn't do last year or the year before. And I found some interesting stuff. And I got some deals that way. Well, let's talk about interesting news. Next year, August. Questions about the Portland Retro Gaming Expo. I went up to them and I go, hey, why August? One person didn't know, and another lady said there was a schedule conflict. Well, that might give me a schedule conflict next year, so I don't even know if I'm going to be attending next year's Portland Retro Gaming Expo. This was the 30th anniversary of not just the Sega Genesis, but the Game Boy. I went to the museum, and John Hancock had his Sega Genesis collection there, and that was pretty impressive. Because there are certain games, I thought, oh, I forgot that was for the Sega Genesis. Oh, I remember when I had that game, or I found that game. Oh, I should pick up that sometime. But, my heart's with the Game Boy. And it was the 30th anniversary of that, too. And someone had a complete Game Boy set. And I was like, ooh, that was pretty cool. Looked around. It's like, I have that game. I couldn't find that one at the expo. I never found Adam's Family. That was one on my list. Could not find it. I might have to buy it on eBay. I got a decent stack. What I pick up? Let's check it out. So keep up the tradition of getting at least one TurboGrafx game. I only got one, unfortunately. I couldn't find Night Creatures, CIC. I looked. There was a couple that were just HuCard. But I ended up getting Sidearms. It's a side shooter. It's one that was on the list. It's more of a cheaper TurboGrafx game. So I ended up getting some cheap Super Nintendo games. Bunga bunga. This is one I used to own. I've been wanting to get this for about 2 years again, so I got it. Well, it's the 30th anniversary of Sega Genesis. I had to get some Sega Genesis games. And I ended up getting Toxic Crusaders. Now, this one was kind of on my list. This is a game that I do own on the NES, but it's one I've been wanting to get for the Sega Genesis. I found it on a fluke, and it was kind of an impulse buy. It's one I've been wanting to get, but I saw it. It wasn't a bad price. Last time I saw it was $20, and it wasn't complete. This one is complete. It does have a little nick at the label. But overall, I got it for a decent price. Like I said, it's complete. It's one I've been wanting for the collection. And I passed on it a couple times throughout the years. Okay. Looked for Streets of Rage. For a game that used to be common, or in my opinion still is common, used to be packed in with the Sega Genesis. Couldn't really find a whole lot of them. I did find a couple of them, and I ended up getting a complete in-box copy. My hunt for Streets of Rage was successful. I found 2. For such a common game, it was actually more difficult to find. This one was not released with the Sega Genesis. That one says they're not for resale, I believe. This is the one that was released in the stores to buy. This was not a pack-in. what about Streets of Rage 3? I found a couple of them, and I forgot how much that game has skyrocketed in price. It's not a $60 CIB game anymore. It's more about a $90 to $100 game, and there was about 3 copies that were there. One was 110, one was 100, and one was 80. Now that $80 one was really tempting, and I almost picked up. I probably would have bought it if I didn't buy other things early on. And I ended up going $20 over budget when I found a loose copy, but for $35. There was another loose copy that was really beat up, and it was tempting. I almost went with that one, but I found one for $35. So now I have all the Streets of Rage games. Yes, unfortunately, Streets of Rage is in the combo cart, the 6-pack. Eventually, I will get Streets of Rage in the box, or complete in the box later on, but I have it in the 6-packs, and I have all the Streets of Rage games. So I can compare it and do that comparison video after the new year. What about the Game Boy? I don't know how I got 2 Turoks. One I got really early on, and the other one, I'm not sure how it happened. This actually used to be in the collection at one time. Same with Turok. And I found it for a decent price, and yeah, I regret selling my Game Boy games because I'm kind of going for a complete set. But yeah, I had to pick up Harvest Moon. I got all these games for $2. Now, technically, I already don't need the weapon, but for $2, I couldn't pass it up. That is pretty uncommon. All for $2. So I also got Side Pocket for the Game Boy. So I ended up getting Dracula for the Game Boy as well, and now I have all the Draculas for a cart base, for the NES, Sega, Super. I don't know why I picked this up. It's for the set. It now matches its NES sister. So I had Barbie for the Game Boy as well. It's Barbie. I just need it for the set. Finally picked this up after so many years. I used to bump into it all the time. I haven't really bumped into too many Game Boy games lately. Ooh, Prophecy. I've actually never owned this one, and looking forward to actually looking when it is. I just like the cover of it. This one I don't know too much about. The number one Game Boy game I wanted to get was Jetsons Robot Panic, and yes, I got it. First half an hour mark, I ended up getting Destiny of the Empire. Not a game I was 100% looking for, but it was a decent price, so I picked it up. Ended up finding another copy of Destiny of the Empire for $13. Now that was a hell of a steal. It has a little bit of nick in the label, but for $13, that was a good find. So I'm like, so I got 2 copies of that as well. So I got Magician on the NES, one I used to own. None of the games I bought for the NES are brand new. They were from the old set. I believe it's kind of like an RPG if I remember correctly. But yeah, I got it for, I think what it goes for. I think exactly what it goes for. Not the easiest game to find, but I finally found Bases Loaded 4 again, and my old one was complete. Yes, it's sad. This was the first buy of the day. I found Empire Strikes Back. I got for a decent deal. I really wanted to find Jungle Book, and one seller had it. There was another seller who had it complete in the box, but this seller had it for a really good price. In fact, I got a couple other games from him for really good prices. This was the last purchase of the day. Nobody had this game. I looked all over for it, and I finally went to almost every vendor. The same vendor I got this from had 2 copies. Same price. I talked to another seller too who doesn't have this black box game. He says, yeah, I have all the black box games except for Clue Land. I had Clue Land
really early on in my collection. It's just crazy. Finally got Cuckoo Lands and I have all the black box games now.
End up getting Swordmaster again.
I did not spend that much. I got a discount, but I could have got a bigger discount if I would have bought it from another person. Got Swordmaster again, so I'm pretty happy about that. I can't wait to dive back into this game and give it a second chance.
I got Casino Kid too. It's actually a pretty fun game, better than the first game actually.
This is a very hard game to find. Got it for a decent deal too. Cheapest I've seen it.
Ended up getting a couple NES boxes. I wanted to find loose boxes, and not many people had any, surprisingly. But I got 3. Super C is one of my original games I had as a kid. I always wanted to get its box. Well guys, thanks so much for watching. And if you attended the Portland Retro Gaming Expo 2019, comment below. What was your favorite part? Did you go to any panels? Did you pick up anything really cool? Well, type it down below and start that dialogue, guys. Once again, thanks for watching. Have fun. Go game. See you later.